'Twas the week before Christmas, and all in the house, there was Disney Domination by the Super Mouse. We had people we lost and people we care, but my man Charles is rolling with us, and I can't finish the rest of the rhyme because I'm not a rapper.
Wow. It started out really good, though.
All right, this week on the latest episode of The Big Show, big week for Disney, and we lost a couple of cultural folks that we want to talk about and salute today. Also, as I said, it's the week before Christmas, man. You guys keep it where you got it. We'll have all that and more on the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to episode 431 of The Big Show, Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. It's been a busy day for my brother Charles. He is the marathon radio man. This dude is on show number, what's this, the third hour of radio for you?
Third hour.
Man, second hour. Well, you know, I told you when I was back in the day, man, when I produced radio for a dozen years, I did 4-hour shows 5 days a week. So for me, I'm like, hey, bro, you know, it's radio. We do what we do. But, bro, we got a big show today, man. Like I said, the loss of Tommy Tiny Lister and what's the sister's name, man? Natalie
Desselle-Reid.
Yeah, so both of those losses happened early this week. The other huge story along with Disney that had their investors press conference a couple of days ago where they announced over 100 new properties was the announcement that they would not recast Chadwick Boseman's role in the Black Panther, which had me some kind of sentimental, Charles. I got that news probably like late on Thursday night, and the first thing I did, wait for it, was go back to Disney Plus and watch Black Panther again, including that amazing new, what do they call it, splash page where, you know, when you hear
yeah,
the Marvel, and it's all Chad Boseman. So his legacy is solidified that he will be, at least in this iteration of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they're not gonna, they may have another character that plays Black Panther, but we're not going to recast T'Challa. There will be no more T'Challas, at least in the immediate future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So please understand that there will be another person playing Black Panther that's already in the universe, but it won't be another actor that they bring in to play what Chadwick Boseman was doing. And I think that's the key.
So let me make sure that people understand it.
Okay.
T'Challa is retired. There will be no more T'Challa, but there will be a Black Panther.
Correct.
Whoever is going to be Black Panther is undetermined.
Shuri can transition. It's almost like, for instance, the Falcon has the shield from Captain America. So at some point he will develop to be the next Captain America, but he won't be Steve Rogers, right, Captain America. So that's a good point, Charles. That so people are like, well, how come they're gonna have another Black Panther? There will be another person who's the Black Panther, but it won't be T'Challa, that character. So and you know, and Charles, again, man, I think I'm taking a deep breath because I'm saying this with a lot of respect that Chadwick Boseman literally had a run of 7 really strong years. Am I right? I'm not talking out of school. From 2013 till he died in 2020. You know, Marshall,
42.
Yeah, 21 Bridges. I mean, Chad Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which comes out in a couple of weeks. Brother had a run. The Five Bloods. You know, he had a run of movies. And then, of course, it's all magnified because, you know, you made history in the Marvel Cinematic Universe when they introduced Black Panther. So that was clearly the one. So, you know, I am very happy with all the moves that Kevin Feige has done with all the decisions they made around Chadwick Boseman, including the murals, including the fact that they created the splash page that they released on his birthday, the fact that they're retiring the character. everything that Marvel has done with Chadwick Boseman, I think, has been spot on, and I'm just delighted that his legacy will continue to live on. And Black Panther 2, which I know has now been moved. Wilson Morales, who just came on, we'll talk about that momentarily, but it promises to be a very emotional movie. It reminds me that at some point it's going to have to play out emotionally, almost like Avengers Endgame, which I still think is probably the most emotional movie that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has produced. Which you go back and watch that, it's like, man, it just tugs at your heartstrings, and I'm sure Black Panther 2 will be the same way. Wilson Morales, welcome to the show, brother. I apologize that we brought you on and didn't give you your proper introduction, despite the fact that you're rocking the curtain again, doing what you do.
Audience, you see the bullying that goes on? I'm gonna have to do some Cobra Kai on him.
Wilson is my dude, man. So we opened up the show, Wilson, by talking about the domination of Disney this week, the loss of Tommy Tiny Lister and Natalie Desselle-Reid. We also just briefly touched on the fact that in the announcement, the investors press conference that they had of talking about retiring T'Challa.
Here's my thing. They said that it would not appear in Black Panther 2.
No. You're missing the point. They're gonna have another person play Black Panther, but it won't be T'Challa. So it's not like Charles, I think, did a great job to explain that. So we don't want people to get confused. There will be another person that's the Black Panther, but it won't be that character that Chadwick Boseman played.
Right.
It's like so basically they're taking the Green Lantern approach.
Right, or they're taking the Captain America approach. I just talked about how the Falcon now has Captain America's shield, and he may indeed at some point be Captain America, but he won't be Steve Rogers playing Captain
Black
America.
Panther was his father before he became T'Challa.
Right, exactly. So my point exactly. But go ahead, Wilson. You do what you do, man, because you the entertainment guru.
Yeah, but I'm saying so Disney definitely, killed the gauntlet with what they did this past week with the investor thing. I guess either, with the turmoil that they've had throughout the whole pandemic and laying off a lot of people, I'm sure, stocks are dropping, they gotta ensure that money's gonna be made. It's not gonna be through a theme park, so they've gotta up the ante on their Disney Plus system, really up the ante, because there's no time in the next 6 months they're gonna make money off their theme parks. So they gotta up the ante, and and obviously all of this stuff was set in motion. It wasn't like they created this in the last 2 months. It's just a matter of okay, do we announce all of it now? Do we announce part of it now? And obviously, by releasing out before the investor thing came out that they had 86 million subscribers, everything's digital. Everything's digital these days, So when nobody's going outside, all you have is what you can do at home, whether it's a computer or through your TV. And this is their way of entertaining folks because no one's going outside anyway. As it is, I live in New York, and as it come Monday, indoor dining will be closed. We still have the winter season coming up where families will travel again to be with their loved ones, and airports will rise. And I don't think it's going to be as big as Thanksgiving, but nevertheless, people want to be together during the holidays, New Year's Eve, and so forth. So it's all this talk about the vaccine is great, but that's going to go to the people who really need it now. The people who are sick, the elderly, individuals like yourself and myself who I believe are healthy, that come out every day, that go out to these places, we're not going to get it for a good minute. We're not going to get it good for a minute. It's got to be to a point where they just sell it over the store, and we still haven't seen, the effects that it will have down the road, so, with not only that, HBO, obviously, Disney Plus this week Warner Brothers last week, Paramount doesn't really have enough product to even be in a conversation. Netflix has already been in the game. So it's like everything is coming on platforms nowadays, So when theaters come back, as we talked about before, these indie films, independent films are going to find a hard place, now it's a question of like, you're going to go on streaming, you're going to go selling on pay-per-view. I mean, not pay-per-view, on demand. How much are you charging, compared to folks who be like, I'm going to just wait till it hits Netflix or whatever, because I'm already paying for Netflix.
Wilson, well, let me jump in for a second. I was thinking about something when you were kind of talking about kind of where we are right now. And I look at it as winners and losers, right? So a week ago when we were on the show, we were talking about all the news of Warner Brothers taking their entire 2021 slate and putting it on HBO Max, and how everybody saw this as being kind of a landmark thing. And then over the course of the last week, we've found out that Warner Brothers is going to be in some sort of litigation with a bunch of different people. So everybody from Christopher Nolan, there's a Spanish or director who's really upset with them. Denzel Washington is threatening legal action, as well as a bunch of other actors who...
Really, Denzel?
Denzel has a release next year, and he was a part of... I saw his name listed as a person who wasn't happy because everybody who has films as a part of this slate all have deals contingent on what these movies are doing in theaters. And
at the box office, yes.
Right. And so the fact that Warner Brothers unilaterally made a decision, and the only person that they really told, or the only film that they really alerted, was Wonder Woman 84, and talked to Patty Jenkins and stroked her a check and didn't stroke everybody else a check. Warner Brothers looks like the biggest loser, because what Warner Brothers, I think in their head, they thought, Wilson, was that they would jump out and be the first studio and go, hey, we're going to put our slate, we found someplace to put our slate online. And they thought that Disney and other studios would follow suit. And Disney this week came back with their answer, nah, we good, dog. We got Disney Plus, and we're going to grow Disney Plus. And not only are we good, we're going to be good through the next 3 years. And as Netflix did several years ago, we're going to take $8 to $9 billion and just create content. And Disney started rolling out the content they were creating. So Warner Brothers looks like the biggest loser on the block, because a lot of the talent that was signed to Warner Brothers is so disenchanted. The studio that I think is going to make the biggest pickup, it's going to be Netflix. Netflix is going to grab a lot of these disenchanted folks, and Netflix got Disney money. They'll just start throwing the money out and continuing the content train. So I think it's going to be a battle eventually between the mouse and Netflix. And I think that's where we're headed by about 2025 on the streaming content front.
There is a third player in this now. Amazon Prime is actually stepping up as well as to acquire a lot of these people, because they are really bolstering their service as well.
Wilson, will you tell Charles that Amazon might be stepping up, but Amazon ain't stepping up like Netflix and Disney? I mean, unless I'm missing something, are they? I mean, they doing a little something, but they ain't.
They're buying product.
Netflix and Disney, and then there's everybody else down here.
Yeah, there's Netflix. Here's the thing. Disney will have quantity. Netflix will have
quantity. They have quantity too.
And quality.
Yeah. Disney will have quality and quantity. They will still have more quality than what Netflix has, because by virtue they got Pixar, Star Wars, and Marvel.
Well, here's the thing. Like, did you see that last Frozen movie?
The last Frozen movie that came from Disney?
Yeah.
Come on, man. A broken clock is right twice a day, man. I mean,
no. I'm not talking about broken. I'm not talking about Frozen 2. That animated short, they just. You're
talking about the Olaf thing. The Olaf
thing. Yeah, it didn't work out well.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you got to be careful, because they have a killer amount of IP property, and it's a matter of the timing of when they're gonna put this out, and not assume that. Think about it. At the end of the day, when they did Star Wars Solo, the whole point was they thought they were going to make 2 more films out of that with a young Han Solo. That didn't work out, and they had to reassess as far as what to do.
But Wilson, as you saw this week, they've got another. They got an African American or some black person that's going to be developing a Lando what? Why are you laughing?
You like it's Justin Simeon.
I said African American. I didn't know the dude's name.
Like you threw it out like you threw it like we know the guy. You know.
God. Watch this. I don't cover entertainment every day like you and Travis Hobson, man.
Justin's been around a good minute.
Justin has been around. We've interviewed Justin. I know him, but I didn't.
Gay white people, most of the headlines was like gay white people.
They put out 120 properties, Wilson. I can't remember who's attached to every property.
Yeah, but when you do Star Wars, there ain't that many blacks.
Well, that is true. So my point is, when you talked about Solo, now Justin Simeon is back developing a Lando series. I'm not sure if it's a series of movies. If it's
I think it's supposed to be an event series.
Is it on Disney Plus? They're talking.
Yeah, like an event, a 6-episode event series.
Yeah, man. So again, like I said, man, Disney. I talked about this a year ago when they came out with The Lion King. This idea that we have all this content and all we do is we will continue to spin off, prequel, sequel, and remake all the stuff in our library. And that's essentially what they're doing. Everything that you saw this week in this investors conference was them either spinning off, prequeling, doing something to something they already own. So Disney's in a good position because they got so much content. And as Wilson, what was the phrase you said? They're property rich.
Yeah, they've got a ton of IP property, like
IP property. Thank you, Wilson.
Like they've got a ton. They can just flip out, and they can just, like, as you see, they're doing live action films off their animated films. And Little Mermaid. Like they're just taking everything. Like, oh, all we have to do is just like go back to the cash cow and be like, oh, let's do our live action Pinocchio, live action Cinderella. Did they
announce a remake of Song of the South?
No. Don't stop playing.
You see my face? Look.
I think it's called Songs from Atlanta.
I'm trying to think of what other triggers that, because Disney has also pulled stuff off of their platform because they're very sensitive right now. We're not trying to offend nobody. But yeah, man. But I say all that to say that I look at Disney and Warner Brothers in varying degrees. And Warner Brothers, man, I see where they were trying to be forward thinking, but you got to do a much better job if you're going to be forward thinking. You got to talk to the content creators and the actors and directors and producers, because if you don't do that, you have this firestorm that's gone on all week with Warner Brothers. Variety, it seems like every day I'm reading different stuff in Variety about people being unhappy. Warner Brothers getting blasted. Like, man.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, a lot of these movies, you look forward to. Think about Candyman and how much we want Nia DaCosta to succeed, and how much, people, not everybody, not a lot of people, but there were, people were like, we want, what's going to be the black film that hits theaters, by a black director. Everything else is coming on streaming platforms. We had a number of those, but we want these movies to do well, and Candyman was one of them. Had COVID not happened, I think it would have done well in the theaters, and Nia DaCosta would be a director on the rise. It's still going to hit theaters, so but just think about just that one film. Now you look at Warner Brothers' slate, Legendary Pictures put up $185 million to co-produce Dune. Where's their end? At the end of the day, they'll put up a 185 when they're in the back of their mind, they're thinking, we're going to make at least 500 million out of this. So we're going to make change. You're not going to make $1 billion off a streaming network, and then you got, what else you have? You have Tom and Jerry. You have the LeBron James film. You've got the Will Smith film. You've got a slew of films out there. Now, there are some films that are like, okay, HBO Max will best serve because if anything, it may not do well at the box office, but it may not do well at the box office.
Somebody wants Wilson Morales. Look, go ahead.
It may not do well at the box office, but you need to get an audience for it. You look back and you think back to Just Mercy, and they didn't have the numbers from the box office. So when you have that product that doesn't spell box office hit, your best thing is we need people to see this. at the end of the day, every filmmaker is all about, I want people to see my movie. You know, you can put your movie on Netflix, and Netflix is now getting much more attention to their product than before because everybody's home.
So, question for you: the biggest event film that doesn't belong to Disney or Netflix or Warner Brothers out there is James Bond 25. What is the future of James Bond 25, or do we just push this movie a year back to this time next year?
Push it back. Because at the end of the day,
you're not going to make the money streaming that movie. That movie's not going to make $600 or $700 million streaming. It's just
and
not.
think about it. With all the piracy that there is, once you put a copy on a streaming platform, let's just say you put it on Netflix, or Disney Plus or whatever, it's going to be hacked. I'm sorry, but it's going to be hacked. They're going to put it, and because it's already a clear copy, it's going to be on all these available downloads, and no one's going to pay for it. Oh, I don't have Disney Plus. Oh, it's on this site. Blah, blah, blah. Go check it out here. You know? So look at Tenet. You know, Tenet was not available if you desperately wanted to see it. You probably saw some choppy version online, but now it's available later. Now think about it. The movie made under $70 million in the United States alone. Probably the poorest outing for a Chris Nolan film. You know, and he's like, listen, you know, certain, you know, as a filmmaker, you know, who takes pride in his shooting and his production design, you know, and using IMAX material, you want that on a big screen. Doesn't matter if people have a 50-inch or 70-inch. You want to be like this, like wow, you know. So like, and that's the case. When you think about Dune, just the trailer alone, look at the work that went into it. You know, it's like filmmakers are not. What's going to happen is you're going to kill a lot of these big production companies who take pride in making a big scale production, and because they're not going to want to do it if one, the money's not there, two, the money's not going to come back to them. You know, so like you can do an independent film. You know, we're going to get a lot of those. We're gonna, you know, as it is right now, you know, like you can't do a film that requires a big audience, like a stadium audience or people in the streets.
Right.
You know, because, you know, you're not going to be testing 100 people for COVID, and either you're going to have them sign some sort of like, if I get sick, you're not to blame release, which nobody's going to want to do, you know. So everybody's taking precautions and just doing films that requires a less amount of people.
Well, I tell you this much, man. You know, it seems like, you know, I was having this conversation earlier today with a couple of good friends of mine. You know, the fact that we're in December now, and you know, this situation's been going on for us now, going on 9 months. It seems like, you know, it's been forever, man. It's like, is this still the same year? Like when this pandemic started, it feels like it was a couple of years ago since the last time Charles and I were in the studio. The last time I saw Wilson, that we did see each other earlier this year, Wilson, in January. Am I correct?
Yeah, the Critics' Choice Awards.
Yeah, it seems like it has been so long for a lot of this stuff, man. And I'm saying all that to set up the fact that we're talking about the movie business, that now, even with a vaccine, there's still a lot of questions, Charles and Wilson, on at what point will it actually be safe for people to go back in theaters, because you've got half of the country who may not take the vaccine. You got the other half of the country who may take a vaccine. And I've been saying it off and on for about the last, you know, since this thing has begun, that it's about consumer confidence. So I have no idea when it will be safe again, that we'll get a letter and they'll go, hey, man, we got a screening of such and such. Now, Wilson and us, we're both living in states right now where I think we've gone back to phase 1, where they've closed everything down. So I don't even have theaters open in Maryland. I think they're still open in Virginia, Charles. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're open in Virginia, yes.
But DC and Maryland, no.
Right.
That's correct. And New York, no. So we don't even have theaters open right now, Wilson. So
yeah, theaters have not been open in New York for a long time. And, you know, for somebody who was never home at 8 o'clock, because I always had something to watch, you know, we're press. So we're gonna get like more than one invitation to we're gonna get several dates to see a film. So if we don't see it this Monday, we pick out Wednesday or following week to see it. But we have to see it. This is our job. So like screening rooms, theaters. Usually the big studio films are in theaters. We have to see these things. But now, obviously we've been resigned. We had to pivot. We had to get used to seeing movies at home. Maybe it's too much because we have all the time in the world we have at home. But it's like sometimes you need a break. I got a slate of films that I need to watch. I've been getting up. I actually watched today Borat.
I'm glad somebody watched it because the publicist called me and I was like, I didn't see the first one. I'm not seeing the second one. She was like, me either. I was like, but we got Wilson though. Go ahead, Wilson.
And Charles.
There was talk about somebody from the film being considered. And goes, let me see what people are talking about. You don't just throw out this film and that person for no reason. So let me go check it out. And at the same time, I want to say I was able to see it. I still don't see the logic in that. But
so even after you watched it, you like, okay.
We're like, who said what? Who wrote what piece? Oh, they just did it for clicks.
Pretty much.
But there's a number of films out there, that's out there that I need to finish seeing this week, because we're entering. This is, I guess, the last week of the year coming up, because the following week is Christmas and no one's really working by that point, But since no one's really going anywhere, it's not like people are traveling to Tahiti or whatever. It's like, no. At the end of the day, it's like everything, LA folks are staying indoors. There's nowhere to go in LA unless it's warm and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to go to the beach. You're not really trying to travel because you're trying to save your coins because who knows where the money is at, think about it, restaurants are closing again, which means people are getting laid off, indoor places, bars. You never know, so like you might as well start stocking up and pretend, you're home and you're not going to be going out for a good minute, so right. That's where we're at. So everything is okay. So studios realize that, which is why we're getting Disney Plus and Warner Brothers, because now we can see them at home and it's going to be a good treat Christmas Day when people get to see the likes of Ma Rainey and Sylvie's Love and, One Night in Miami, and they get to see Wonder Woman. We're going to have an array of options, even with the stuff that comes out the week before, the George Clooney film, people who are not like movie hungry, they'll see it during Christmas time when, if they're working, that they now have the time frame to watch it. Sometimes you don't watch a movie right away on a Friday. You pick out a different time to watch it. And Christmas time is usually the holidays. So like, we'll see. It's you never know where things are gonna go.
All right. Well, having said that, man, I'm gonna switch gears, man, because I think we have really discussed that to the point that there's really not much more that we can add to that. But I do want to take some time to salute a couple of people we lost this week, and I'm glad we got Wilson on because you did tributes as well as I on blackfilm.com. We'll start off with Natalie Desselle-Reid, who was an actress who most notably, a lot of people will remember her from Baps. She played opposite Halle Berry in that film. She also played Bill Bellamy's younger meddlesome sister in How to Be a Player.
Right.
Set It Off, Cinderella, and she was also in the television series Built to Last, For Your Love, and also played 3 seasons on Eve. This sister passed away from colon cancer at the age of 53 years old. She's the second notable we've lost this year to this disease. Chadwick Boseman was first. Gentlemen, talk a little bit about Natalie Desselle-Reid. Now, for me, from Eve and Baps are probably the 2 most enduring things that she's done. But the thing that I think stands out about her is that she didn't fit, quote unquote, the mode, the physical size mode that we were accustomed to seeing on the television. She was kind of a big boned sister. She was a bigger sister who had comedic chops. I thought she and Halle Berry, even though I wasn't a big fan of the film Baps, I understood what and I've learned, Wilson, in my criticism, that the fact that I don't like something doesn't mean that you throw the whole thing away, because there can be some gems and some shining lights, even in some dark light, in a dark product. And I didn't think that the product was that good, but I saw the potential in that young lady and then saw her acting. So, you know, she's lost, she gets lost in the mix because we see so many people who are acting that, you know, from time to time, you just wait to see them on different projects and go, oh, that's such and such again. Oh. But man, the fact that that sister, man, left us at such a young age, it bothered me. I'll start with you, Wilson, since you are the show correspondent, man. Talk a little bit about your memories of Natalie Desselle-Reid.
You know, I didn't watch as many episodes of Eve, you know, at the time. I did see a few of them. Obviously, she was a good supporting actress on that show, and she did her thing. I think for me in films, I remember Babs, but I also remember her from How to Be a Player. You know, that one had much more to me than Babs, you know.
I hate you.
Yeah. It's like, you know, it's like the chemistry between her and Bill Bellamy was such dynamic. It was a fun film. Like, you don't remember any of the other girls that were in that movie that he was trying to date, but you remember the sister, you know, and that was her, you know. And you're right, you know, she went on to do TV series here and there, and you know, she faded out in the last few years. No one really knows her, but you know, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, we hate that we remember people when they die,
right?
You know, because no one's paying attention. If they're out of the spotlight, you know, there's good reason, you know, that they're retired or whatever, they've gone on for their lives. But you think about it, you know, her shine came out 20 years ago, you know, in the 90s. You know, she was in her 90s, basically. You know, she was doing her thing, and then maybe I don't know if she had like kids or anything like that, but you know, she went on to have a good life.
She had three. She had 3 kids.
She had 3 kids. So you know, obviously, when you're a mom and your mom's to 3 kids, that takes a lot. You know, so you can't always look for the type of work that's going to take you away from your kids. As much as a lot of people still do it, you know, who knows? But when you're a Black actress, we know the degree of difficulty already to getting a role on a TV show first, and then how hard it is to get on a film. You know, think about it. She did Babs. She did How to Be a Player. I'm not hearing any white films up in there.
Right.
You know, so,
right.
So it's sort of like, oh, you know, it's like how hard it was, and you know, to get those roles. You know, and like you said, you know, she didn't fix that mold. You know, like everybody's looking for what's going to sell, and it's going to be an easy sell. It's like, no. Sometimes I always say theater is the best avenue for actors because they don't think of color. They don't think of how you look. They just want to know how you act, you know, and they don't think of age, you know. And this girl, Natalie, did a lot, you know, in a short amount of time frame that we remember her. You know, for everybody that posted her picture and gave her respect, that just shows how much she contributed to this industry.
Right. There was a bunch of people that did that, man, for a sister that a lot of people didn't see a lot of. Charles, what do you got, man?
You know, I like to measure a lot of things by how my children receive it. And so when the news came out, I shared it. And my daughter was the first one. She was like, oh, because she remembered her from Medea's Big Happy Family and Eve. And so she was like, oh, yeah, I know her. I remember her. And so it was when she's one of those actresses that was known to us of being people of color because we see her in things that we watch. And so it may not have resonated across Hollywood the same way, but I was moved enough that Halle Berry, her co-star in Babs, even posted condolences for the loss of her. And so she was one of those people who, when you got into your life, she touched you and she worked with you. And then I can't think of anyone who's had anything bad to say about her. So it was a big loss for us. So, you know, it may not have resonated across Hollywood like another actress would, but we knew who she is or was and what she did, and she meant something to us. And so it is a loss. And I would say she's a cultural icon for us as an actress.
All right. Well, transitioning from one loss, the next one, man, would kind of hit me in the soul, man, because Tiny Lister, is forever etched. You just have to say one word in the Black community, and everybody knows who Debo is. Debo. I was sharing with Wilson today that I saw on something on Instagram that the loss of Tiny Lister, he is the 7th person who's appeared in that movie that's already passed from Friday. 7 people. So Bernie Mac is gone. The young sister that Chris Tucker kept telling, don't you ever, Yvette Wilson, don't you ever come around here. She's gone. Pops, John Witherspoon is gone. So there's been a lot of loss out of the cast of the original Friday, man. But Tiny Lister, man, for me, there are 2 roles that define him. We talked about Debo. And then in The Fifth Element, man, where he played the president, man, that brother right there, man. And in addition to him being, sometimes a professional wrestler as well, Tiny Lister, man, had quite a career, which I really was not aware of his full contribution. Of course, as Charles has said, until they die, it's really sad that we don't spend a lot more time celebrating actors who are here. Now, as an aside, before I throw it to you, Charles and Wilson, I had a chance as Wilson, did you interview David Oyelowo this week?
Not this week, but several times for the last.
But I've interviewed him several times too, and I had a chance to talk to him this week, and we spent half of the time with me giving him lots of props over the years of how his career has developed. And, we talked about the Black Reel Awards, and he was like, yeah, I know you guys have been really good to me. So my point is that as journalists and, folks who speak to these actors a lot, I try to make sure that there's certain people that we know. Like Wilson, I know is really close to Malcolm Lee. I've interviewed Malcolm Lee a bunch of times, Nate Parker, somebody else. So I'm always trying to give these brothers and sisters love, because this is not an easy industry, man. And as you said, with Natalie Desselle-Reid, you got a situation where, I'm working primarily on Black properties and I'm not crossing over. That's not bad because, the community, as you said, there was an outpouring of affection for this woman who wasn't Halle Berry or Sanaa Lathan or Tracy Ellis Ross, but made a contribution, was somebody that people enjoyed her work, and they were sad at her passing. So I say that about Tiny Lister. It's a guy, Wilson, that I never got an opportunity to interview, but he sure enough did a lot of stuff that put a smile on my face. Friday is the kind of movie, much like, we talk about New Jack City or Boys in the Hood, that's a quotable film. There's so many great lines that are in Friday, including, yeah, man, we got $200. No, man, I got $200. That's what I'm saying about Debo. That character was amazing. Wilson, talk to me about the life of Tiny Lister from your blackfilm.com sort
Black
of.
Film and TV. Black Film and TV.
So you know what I'm talking about. When you were covering this guy, from your perspective, talk about that.
He was that actor that was there that you could not miss. Obviously at 6'5", and I think he had the thing with an eye, I'm not sure if he had a glass eye or not,
No, he was blind in his right eye.
Yeah.
Okay, but at that height, you could always tell he was in the room, I think back to Universal Soldier with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He was one of those guys. Obviously in The Fifth Element, it's not that often you get a Black president,
Right.
It's like, especially during that time, you can think of now, you can't find 20 Blacks that have played the president throughout this, between TV and film.
Haysbert, and then also Terry Crews and oh my God, but go ahead. I know 3, but go ahead.
And then obviously he was in Jackie Brown, and then the wrestling, he made that pivot to the wrestling world where people knew who he was as Zeus. Opposite Hulk Hogan when wrestling was huge. And
so was he.
And obviously, he did both Friday films. And, those Friday films are ones that back in the day you watched over and over again. To everybody's, for For as many times people have seen The Godfather, you know, that Friday was like that classic you can watch on your tape. You can go to a bar, or at least a black bar, and be like, yo, it's on TV. You know, it's on the screen. That's that Friday. You want to see that, you know? So that's another one. To hear that, you know, he's passed early on, you know, young age, you know, it's, you know, it's a tragedy, you know, that we get them every year, you know? But that's the thing. We get deaths every year. Deaths are inevitable. Question is, who is it going to be? You know, we never hear somebody who's on death's door. You know, it's rare that you see somebody, oh, he's going to die in 5 days or whatever. It's like, no. Usually you hear about it when it's happened. You know, with the exception of John Singleton, who, you know, we knew that was coming up at some point. These deaths that we've had this week have been, if you're older in your 80s, you could say, okay, they had a good life. If you're younger, then you're like, oh, it's gone too soon. You know, Tommy Tiny Lister was definitely gone too soon.
Yeah, man. Charles, what do you got, man?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, when he passed away, you know, I remember him as a wrestler, because I'm a big wrestling fan. I remember how he broke into acting opposite of Hulk Hogan. But I looked at his IMDb page. Tom Tiny Lister has 220 credits, acting roles that he's played in his lifetime. 220 credits. And I know Morgan Freeman and Chris Rock, they both played presidents as well. Chris Rock actually became president through his movie. But he did play a president. I think the first time I ever saw a black president was when Tiny Lister was the president in The Fifth Element. He's again another one of the, and you said it at the beginning of the show. This is a big loss for Black Hollywood because of who he was and what he did. Everybody knows. Everybody knew Debo. Everybody knew Zeus. Everybody, and so 62 going on 63 maybe is still young to lose someone of this stature. And I don't know what's going on with is there a Friday curse, or I don't know, but you know, it just came out of nowhere. It was kind of surprising to me. And again, my sons came to me and told me about it before I even knew about it. So you know, it's not just our age, it's not just our generation, but everybody knew him.
Well, from what I'm understanding, I got an inbox a couple of days ago that Variety was reporting that it was COVID. And, you know, it's sad, man. I mean, you know, we talk about this year. It has just been mentally and emotionally challenging for so many of us. And I go back to the fact of us being journalists, man. You know, we are blessed at points to kind of talk to these folks and interact with them. I just think about the many folks that I've talked to, and Wilson probably has, and Charles, you probably both had the same situation where there are people you talk to who no longer are here, man. But, you know, we've got a copy of conversations that we've had. I only interviewed Chad Boseman one time, and I told that story on the air that as soon as I walked out the door, I discovered that the whole interview was gone. I was like, so, you know, Octavia Spencer, gone. But, you know, somebody is Wilson, you got us on feedback over there? Because I'm hearing me twice.
No, that's not me.
Okay, that's not you? Okay, all right. So, yeah, so I think we've got about 15 minutes to go. Wilson, we've only got, I think, after today, 2 more shows this year that are left. And I think as of next week is going to be a tough week because there's so many movies dropping on Christmas, man, from Wonder Woman to Sylvie's Love to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom to Promising Young Woman. There are like 7 or 8 movies that are dropping in about a week and a half. So at some point, I guess we're going to have to get together, man, and I'm going to have to find you since I know you home Zooming, that we may have to do some special shows, man. But what else do we have, man, on these folks, man? And I guess this also gives us an opportunity to look back, and I guess we have 2 more weeks. So hopefully we can close the book with go ahead, Charles.
before we get into that, I just want to, we talked about something last week, and it kind of sunk into me after the show ended, as we were talking about Black Christmas classics and how, we talked about how great Jingle Jangle is, and Wilson said this, and it kind of hit me, like I said.
Wait, Wilson said something that stuck with you for a week?
A week, yes.
Wow, let me hear this, man, because don't see you making Wilson's head even larger than what it already is. Go ahead.
And I'm the guy of wisdom,
I really, 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 really want Jingle Jangle to be the Christmas staple for Black America. And the problem is, like he said, it's stuck on Netflix. If back in the day, or even nowadays, you can see It's a Wonderful Life on multiple places.
That's true.
But in order to see Jingle Jangle, you have to see it on Netflix, and somehow in order it to be the success that it needs to be, it has to be seen somewhere else.
Well, wait a minute, but let me jump in, man. So when you think about It's a Wonderful Life or some of these other classic movies, let's be honest, you can only see Christmas in Connecticut on TCM. You only are able to watch White Christmas on TCM. White Christmas ain't playing on CBS or NBC or any of these other channels. That's an old classic film. So we may have to redefine how we receive content moving forward. So the fact that Netflix is a streaming giant, much like a Disney Plus situation, the only place you can watch any Marvel or Pixar content is on an ABC owned, like on a station that's owned by Disney.
No, but it's different, because with the Marvel films, at least they had theatrical releases where people could see them. Same thing with those White Christmas and all those things before they got locked into where they are now. They've had distribution.
But Charles, my point is that they had distribution in the 40s and 50s, and right now, though, that content is kind of locked into a place. So TCM is kind of your quote unquote classic movie network. Disney owns ABC. You can't watch any Disney property outside of an ABC or a Disney owned. I mean, Wilson, you understand what I'm saying by that? That, like, I think to a certain extent that what we look at as content has starting to become owned or controlled, that you won't have content just free flowing if it's not allowed by whoever the content creator or the owner of that content is. So I'm just saying it might be a different story in the future for films like Jingle Jangle or any other upcoming kind of films like that. Or am I wrong? Am I seeing this differently? Wilson?
No, everything is according to time. You think about Jingle Jangle, as good as it is that we like it now, I like to think you gotta let films fester a bit with the audience, before you can decide if it's a classic, if it's something you want. Same for like songs, it's like nothing becomes an overnight, since you can be an overnight sensation, or you can last during time. And as we cover movies that are opening now, we're talking about the Ma Rainey's and all of that. The question is, can that movie still be talked about post-Oscars? How many people are talking about Roma? Nobody. That movie went for the time period that it was out, 10 nominations. But the minute the Oscars was over, just put it back in the genie. It's like, when I open that one up again. There are other movies that are the test of time that, like, they don't have to be a rewarding like an Oscar type of movie. They just have to be movies that, like, I'm just thinking about it. Before I even became a critic, I was always just a film lover. And when you don't have enough money to go to the theaters, you're watching what's on TV. And how many times did TNT play Above the Rim, New Jack City, movies that didn't do well box office wise, but you watched it when it came out on television, on VHS, on DVD, more VHS than DVD, and so those are the ones that last. Those are the ones that people remember. I think back to a quote Ice Cube said, and he said, he was talking about regarding the guy that played Superfly. and he was saying that, like, Ron O'Neal. This is on the heels of Ron O'Neal's death, and I think I spoke to Ice Cube like 2 days afterwards. And he said, listen, Ron O'Neal did a lot of movies that people probably recognize and people don't remember. But you remember the movie he always did, Superfly. Mm-hmm. That's the one everybody remembers. A classic, a blaxploitation classic, whatever genre you want to put it in. So as we talk about, the Tiny Lesters and the Natalie, they've got more than 2 or 3 products that they've done, TV and film. We're just going to remember the ones that they stood out in, the one that's on repeat, where you can remember the dialogue, because it stood out. You may not have seen that movie in 10, 20 years, but you still remember the dialogue, and who said it, And so when you talk about Christmas movies and Jingle Jangle, you got to let it fester, go through some time while it's playing well, and it's a great production design. We're going to talk about how it's one of the top films this year, like in terms of like, hey, I like this movie. Where will it stand a year from now, 2 years from now, amongst other Christmas films? You won't say amongst films because Christmas, it kind of falls in that category.
Right. No, I got you, man. And I think, Charles, that's a really good point, man. I mean, because we don't know. It's an unknown right now. Will that be a hindrance for Jingle Jangle moving forward? I don't think so. I've spent a lot of time watching Claws, which Netflix released last year, an animated film that I was an Oscar nominee. I think that's an amazing story, and it makes me choke up every time I watch it, man, because, there's so much, sports, movies, politics, life is all the same, right? So, we all have a plan. Wilson has a plan for what he wants to do with his life. You have a plan, Charles. I have a plan. It's about execution. Wilson, of course, from a football standpoint, we can't even really have a conversation with him because he's a Jets fan and his team is 0 for the season. But Charles and I, who are sitting in first place.
We talked about earlier this year, I put my allegiance on pause. I'm running with the Chiefs.
Whatever, man. So as I said, Wilson's team is horrible this year, and life is about execution. So the fact that Wilson called me up as his team had a lead with 13 seconds to go, and a long pass went and for a touchdown, and his team stayed 0-12, talks about the same thing that we talk about with movies. It's execution. You can have the best cast, you can have the best locations, the music. If you got a bad story that's not executed properly, or if you got a good story that's not executed properly in the edit, you can lose your movie like Wilson's team lost that game. So I'm doing this.
I still think the Dallas Cowboys are going to come back and beat the Giants to take over the NFC.
Okay. So as I was, Charles, look at Charles's face. So we're saying that because it's Wilson. Wilson is my guy. We got a couple of minutes to go. Wilson, before we let you get out of here, man, thank you, for sitting here with Charles and I in hour 3 of our show today, as we have been doing radio like it seems like all Saturday.
See the bully that I get? I get bullied on my curtains. I get bullied on my team.
First of all, sir, you're not getting bullied.
Will be different.
You went to mighty Cornell University, one of the Ivies. So if you're gonna get bullied, you get bullied for that. That's what I'm saying. Get bullied for Cornell, and the fact that you went to Cornell and didn't pledge Alpha Phi Alpha, which that was never mind. It's a long story. Way to go, Wilson. I'm always happy to have you, Wilson. Well, I tell you all the time, man, we laugh, but, I get on the phone with you. I get on the phone with Sean. I get on the phone with Charles. We got a tight-knit community, and I think at some point, man, honestly, we need to really sit down and think about doing a one-time sort of a podcast where we bring the titans of Black film criticism on the stage, because we know each other, man. It's not like, it's hip-hop, and, that dude's on the West Coast, this dude's on the East Coast. We all talk to each other, man. We all know each other, man. So
we do.
Huh?
No, I'm saying, like, yeah, as long as we communicate, we're all good.
We need to do that, man. And like I said, man, I think I value my friendships with Wilson, Sean, and several others have done. Anybody who's 20 years plus, we in the same club, man. You know, this is what we do. And Charles is on the come up. So, you know, I always try to make sure that with Charles, we always talk about stuff in front of Charles. So Charles understands two things. He understands the hierarchy of where you need to be, because we up here, right? You see what Wilson is doing, right? We up here. You need to get up here with us. And then at the same time, it gives you the hope to understand that at some point, when Wilson, Sean, Tim, Mike, and Clayton and others have gone to the side, now you become us. So, you know, I'm giving you an aspirational moment right here. Wilson.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So, Wilson, tell people where they can read the amazing content that you produce.
You can always find me over at blackfilmandtv.com, which is the same place you can find stories on IG and on Twitter, you know, and on Facebook. You know, I'm always going to continue to tell stories that everybody knows and not everybody knows, you know, just so that our stories are told from our perspective.
All right, got you. And Charles Kirkland, where's all your fine content at?
Well, I can be found at thefilmgordon.com. That's thefilmgordon.com.
Wilson,
and
look,
on the internet and on YouTube and on Facebook. Check us out.
And also, congratulations to us, because now, as of this week, we are back on iTunes, so you can check this show out. Wilson Morales, Charles, and Tim. You can check us out on Castbox, iTunes, Spreaker. Subscribe to our Film Gordon channel on YouTube. Wilson, why you don't have a YouTube channel, bro?
I do. Black Film. You can go to Black Film and TV YouTube.
Well, how come you never give out the YouTube channel?
Okay, it's there. You know, if you type it, you'll find it.
God, man, come
on,
on, bro.
On there, you'll find everything.
I got to prod you to promote your stuff. This is what I'm talking about. This is why your team is 0-12. This is what I'm talking about right here.
Let's see how far the Giants go. Let's see how far the Giants go.
This sounds like the Dave Chappelle haters ball skit. Hate. So as we tell you guys in closing every week, please see something good at the movies. I'm Tim Gordon, and on behalf of my esteemed panel of critics, you guys enjoy your weekend. You have happy holidays, and we'll be back next week to give you some more of the big show. You take care.
Take care, folks.
All right, man.